I'm going to back this song up. Okay. Ready? We're going. Hey! Ladies and gentlemen, technical difficulties do not stop us. They only restart us. We are restarted, and we are tired, and our legs hurt. But we're here to give you this beautiful podcast for empathy and imagination, because there needs to be at least one podcast about empathy and imagination. So here in this podcast, we try to empathize
and imaginize.
Mm-hmm. We try to connect, or listen, respond, react, and we want to thank you. And so we're going to get right back into our Sounds Good. Stand by. All right. Yes. Thank you.
Cool.
That's the third track from a genre I'm calling technical blackcore.
Technical blackcore.
And I've done that all myself.
TBC.
TBC. And so it's moving along, and yeah, so that's part of our Sounds Good. I know we have some more Sounds Good too.
Yeah. You want to do a topic? I'm running out of gas here.
Oh man, let's do a topic. Ready?
You got a topic?
I have a topic.
You're not feeling a little tired?
I feel like jumping up and down and in my mind while sitting down and talking.
Okay.
So the topic for the day is maximum wage.
Huh.
This has been in my mind a bit.
Interesting.
The topic of a
Know much about
minimum wage is interesting, and I could see that there's good and there's harm to have such a concept.
Right.
So some people benefit from the fact that there's a minimum wage, but I'm starting to wonder if it's a narrow amount of people who actually benefit from there
From minimum
being
wage?
from there being a minimum wage. So
Yeah.
I'm interested in
Maximum wage.
maximum wage because if there's going to be a minimum, it would make sense that there's a maximum too.
Well, they say that a person's happiness doesn't change much beyond making you make something like $70,000 a year,
Yeah.
and the more you make, it doesn't really affect your happiness in any way,
I've
any
heard that,
significant
too.
way.
Yeah.
So maybe, but what do you do with the extra money? I mean, where does the extra money go?
Well, we have this thing where so many corporations are extracting wealth from the labor of so many people, and then the extracted wealth gets consolidated. And it's kind of because we have a minimum wage, but kind of not. Also, other reasons affect why this occurs. But like there's certain companies, like for example, the airline I work for, the CEO of that airline limited the amount of income he got. And so it was all very public and obvious.
I think Donald Trump's working for no salary as president.
Yeah, that makes sense. Limiting CEO pay to 100 times the minimum wage would still allow top execs to be millionaires. They'd earn a maximum wage of about $1.5 million per year, given the current federal minimum of $7.25 an hour, figured for a 40-hour work week. So that's one version of it.
Current minimum $7.25 somewhere.
Yeah,
in some places.
Federal.
Oh, federal. Okay.
Federally, it's $7.25.
Damn.
If I was making $7.25 an hour, I couldn't.
Couldn't live.
It wouldn't. No way. There's no way.
Well, you could live, but it would be very sparse, minimal lifestyle.
I don't know if I could operate a vehicle to drive far enough away to where I'd have to live from where I worked. 60 hours a week making $7.25. I mean, I don't know.
It's like
how that would work.
$800 a month or something.
That sounds
40-hour weeks.
So 100 times that is $1.5 million a year, which is like, who do you really need more than that per year? If you're working 15 years,
need is it gets so subjective. What do we actually need?
Right. So what do we actually need?
Well, we want to cover our housing costs.
We want to save
but
a
those
little
could
for
be
the dark days.
But we also don't want to be living, cheek and jowl with other people right next to us. So we want some space, right? We want space between us and other people.
Uh-huh.
Most of us do. So that means that ups the rent. So we want to be able to have shelter and food at a minimum.
Entertainment, heat,
maybe. But
Chips.
entertainment's not a necessity.
It kind of is.
Chips are a necessity.
Chips are more of a necessity than entertainment. But
Cheetos.
I think entertainment
Specifically
is actually a
Cheetos.
necessity. Dude, you are correct that Cheetos are the best chips.
Yeah, you do need to be entertained to keep your mind, to keep yourself sane.
Yeah, you do need some.
It doesn't need to be every day, but once a month you have a rain dance and there's a festival.
Or you watch a movie, or you
watch a movie,
or you go to a place and you sit down and eat popcorn or drink a fancy beer you didn't need for your survival.
Right. Yeah, so I guess that's what we want.
I think
shelter,
I
food.
think that there's no maximum wage is kind of that's the peephole into the problem.
You think a maximum wage is a good solution?
I think a maximum wage is a Band-Aid on a river of blood.
Okay, right, because the system.
You
don't like the system.
I don't like the system. But I do think that a maximum wage we'd go. It would do a lot to improve the well-being of high earners, medium earners, and low earners.
Yeah, maybe so.
Because high earners, if you're getting the maximum, like say I was like, oh, this beer company was like, you're the best sales, go do the thing, Drew, and I was like became an executive making the maximum wage.
Mm-hmm.
Not only there'd be cool benefits too. I mean, you'd be getting all. I mean, it wouldn't just be the money. There'd be relationships.
Well, it almost not
stuff.
getting that much money. Like having the maximum wage almost incentivizes people to branch out and do other shit.
Exactly.
It's like okay, well, I'm at maximum wage, and so I can just stay in this job working maximum wage for 20 years. And it's like okay, cool. Or you can be doing that and maybe branch out, do something else, earn maximum wage there, and then keep branching out and more entrepreneurs, right? More small businesses.
I think people would
more opportunities.
I think people would sort of eventually lose the lust for endless money. I mean, it's cool to have money.
It's hard to know
what you want to do.
Why? It's hard to know why people want that in the first place. The best thing I can come up with is like, you have more power, you have control over shit. You can keep your family alive, down through the generations.
Maybe.
What else is there though? You can't take it with you. Right. Once you die, that's it. You can leave it to your children. But
what are they going to do with it?
Turns out most millionaires weren't born into money.
Yeah, most made it now.
Most made it, and most children of millionaires squander it. Like I think there's like they call it like a generation leap, like one generation's rags to riches, right? Mm-hmm. And then that person's offspring squander it.
Bummer.
And then their offspring sort of goes up again. So it's not a guarantee of prosperity to be born a rich kid or have a rich dad. You're actually more likely to squander your riches and not know the true value of money.
Interesting. So maybe it takes a generation off or something?
And some of these dynasties that have been in power for a while, like Rockefellers,
yeah,
they would specifically inculcate values of like, hey, you got to save money, you got to save 20%, give 20% to charity. And even Warren Buffett does that too. He's like, my kids aren't going to get much money. I'm going to give them advice and stuff, but they're not just going to get free handouts.
There's this whole thing going along for billionaires now, and they're talking about giving away half their money in their lifetimes. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah, because at a certain point, you can't. If you're rich enough, you can't actually spend all the money you have.
It's just
it becomes impossible,
and then it becomes fodder in a bank account.
And like Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, he talks about that a little bit because he's set up, and he has FU money, and he's kind of like,
Is that what it is?
And he's kind of like, he's like, I can't, he's like, I'm good. I don't need to make any more money. I probably couldn't spend what I have because I'm not an extravagant spender. He's like, so I'm fine. But his theory is, you start off life is like a progression from selfish to non-selfish. So you're selfish, working your ass off, selfish. Maybe you have a family, blah blah blah, still selfish. And you get rich, and like suddenly, when you have a bunch of money, you become selfless. You're like, just going to give this shit away.
Or help
I'm going to keep all of it.
Shit.
Yeah. I'm going to be an investor.
If I became wealthy, I would invest in other people's ideas and businesses.
Just become an investor and just spread it around.
Yeah.
When you're like 65 and you're rich and you're just kind of like, well, kids are taken care of. Everything's taken care of. Now what? And so that's it's kind of a good life trajectory. It's like, don't feel bad being selfish, but because Scott Adams says this, he's like, once you become rich, like everything changes. Whereas before you're rich, you're like, oh, if I just had the money to get this, then things would fall together. But when you're rich, you realize, oh, it actually isn't the way it works.
Well, I haven't been rich, so I'm not quite sure.
So I would say be selfish,
goes.
be selfish and get rich. And then you'll become selfless and you want to give it all away and you want to share your wisdom.
But that doesn't
and your
always
money
happen. You know, a lot of
doesn't
people,
always happen, but
it's
a good
they wall
thing.
up. They get in their gated communities and they
Sure.
they wall up.
I'm saying it's a good thing if more people were like that, it'd be good.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay. A maximum wage, also often called a wage ceiling, is a legal limit to how much income an individual can earn. It's a prescribed limitation which can be used to affect change in an economic structure, but its effects are unrelated to the benefits of minimum wage laws used currently by some states to enforce minimum earnings. A maximum wage does not directly redistribute wealth, but it does limit the nominal income of a specific worker within a society.
Yeah.
So then that means the rest of the money would need to be going into the retirement of the other workers and reinvesting into the company or both.
Right.
That's what I
that
think.
would be huge. That would be huge incentive to keep working in some place if they were like, yeah, you're making $20 an hour, but for every hour that you work, there's like $100 are going into your retirement or something.
Totally.
Like, fuck yeah.
I mean, totally.
You know?
Yeah.
And even if like maybe there's a higher up or you're working somewhere and you knew, oh yeah, the CEO he can only ever make maximum wage. So it sort of lessens the resentment there too, you know.
I think so. I think it would bring people closer together because it's really disparity that causes trouble. I think in communities, disparity. It just depends on whatever the disparity is, and I think if you had a maximum wage, like Southwest Airlines CEO sort of does, like he made like $4.5 million like the third year he was there.
Yeah, only.
But
you know,
the same guy at United Airlines made like $153 million that year or something.
And bailed out by the government,
right?
And all that shit,
right.
Like,
so
it's so tiresome. Like, it's so tiresome.
I know, it's like, oh, only $4 million. Are you so woo? But he could have taken so much more.
Sure. Well, and half of that, more than half of that's going back to the government in taxes. So you make $4 million, but you're paying $2 million out.
He probably is. Yeah.
I mean, it's probably more like 30%. But so what?
Advocates argue that a maximum wage could limit the possibility for inflation of a currency or economy, similar to the way a minimum wage may limit deflation. If these hypotheses are true, implementing both pieces of legislation would achieve an economy with wages that cannot inflate or deflate past the point of the relative maximum/minimum wage, respectively. Accordingly, wages in the economy would hover between the maximum and minimum, and the populace would live between the two wage points. Supporters say a maximum wage could also reduce devaluation of a currency by limiting the amount any member of the populace can earn, and consequently effectively limit the ability of currency. Critics argue that a maximum wage on the upper class merely restructures compensation and benefits, moving the excess income beyond the reach of the more direct taxation policies.
You get more stock, you get more other perks.
These critics point out that in practice, a maximum wage only limits the nominal income of workers, and as such has none of the redistribution benefits that a program income tax table with uncapped income would have.
Yeah.
Economists of the monetarist school hold that the ability of a maximum wage to limit inflation is false. Instead, they believe that inflation is controlled by growth in the money supply, according to the quantity theory of money, rather than through growth in actual wages. See, I don't personally agree with that. They argue that it merely restructures compensatory benefits, moving the excess income into, less tax, like stocks. I think your maximum wage has to include your stocks.
Oh, include all the other stuff, all the ancillary stuff, like your stocks, your retirement account, your pension, your benefits,
all of it. This is a weak argument because, of course, you'd make it so that it included all the benefits.
Right.
Of course.
They're saying though the CEO gets all kinds of stock things that aren't.
Well, they said that they would
factored in.
transfer his wealth to stock.
Yeah.
So he actually wouldn't lose. There would be no redistribution. He would just get hella more stock in the company, which isn't good because not necessarily he or she would want that.
Right.
And it's like, it really is that the best way to use the money the company's earning from all the people who are really making it happen at the
Right.
ground level, you know?
Right,
So
right,
it's
right.
like, let's pay into their IRA, their Roth 401k. Let's put that money into them.
Mm.
And they'll be like, hell yeah, I'll work harder for this company.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
In other countries, this happens. You know, like
Are there countries that have maximum wages?
there are countries that's effectively.
Hmm.
Yeah. Also, there's like you get paid like 5 months of maternity leave, and you get 5 weeks a year of paid vacation, and 2-hour paid lunches, and if you go to a school, everything a kid eats is made by a chef there in the building. It's like whole food by a person, and it's all free. It's all included, and everyone is happy. Everyone's happier.
Yeah.
Everyone is happier there with those things.
Where's
for that
this?
stuff? There's
Don't they-
many countries.
Don't they have paternity leave some places too?
They do. They actually in these same places they also.
kinda cool.
It's not as much, but
Yeah.
we would still.
Well,
as
of course, it
fathers
wouldn't
get-
be. It wouldn't be.
No, because we have to earn
You're not-
that money. Jeez,
you know.
man, get that money.
You have to do 5 minutes of work. You don't have to suffer for 9 months.
5 minutes of work.
You don't get to
It's
suffer.
13 minutes of
Let's say,
work.
yeah, okay, yeah. Depending on who you are.
Yeah.
For me, it's more like 13 hours.
Mm.
Tantric,
Romantic man.
romantic tantric.
At present, Cuba has an active maximum wage law. Where
Cuba.
individuals cannot earn more than $20 per month. Wait.
Cuba?
At present, Cuba has an active maximum wage law where individuals cannot earn more than $20 per month. That seems odd. Egypt passed a maximum wage law in July 2014 and faced a subsequent brain drain of the top employees within the
Everybody left.
A-
Yeah.
A vote to implement a maximum wage law in Switzerland failed with only a 34.7% vote for approval.
Huh. So most people are not on board with this.
In Switzerland, 34 voted.
Well,
for it.
even the people in who lived in Egypt when it was implemented.
Well, they
left.
left. A brain
Like, forget
drain.
this.
No major economy has
Yeah,
a
that's a
direct
good
earnings
good
limit.
point because it could drain all your best. You don't want you want the best minds in your country.
Right.
Every
So
country wants that.
you would basically need to do it across the world.
Yeah.
Which because if you did it in America,
That's
they
not
would,
feasible.
They would leave and go to China and go money.
Yep,
Or,
yep.
You know, or Britain or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, they don't have the ethical restrictions on genetic engineering that you do in the U.S. I'm fucking there. Doom, bing, CRISPR.
Okay. Yeah.
CRISPR,
I mean that's
you know,
true.
modify
you
your-
can move
modify your
power by
children.
eliminating that's true.
Modify your child before it's born.
No major economy has a direct earnings limit, though some economies do incorporate the policy of highly progressive tax structures in the form of scaled taxation. Maximum liquid wealth
Okay.
policy restricts the
There
amount
you
of
go.
liquid wealth an individual is permitted to maintain,
Right.
while giving them
Like
unrestricted
fungible.
access to non-liquid assets. This is to say an individual may earn as much as they like during a given time period, but all earnings must be reinvested within an equivalent time period. All earnings not reinvested within this time period would be seized.
Huh.
This policy is only arguably a valid maximum wage implementation, as it does not actually restrict the wages a person is allowed to maintain, but only restricts the amount of actual currency that they are allowed to hold at any given time. Proponents of this policy argue that it enforces the ideals of a maximum wage without restricting actual capital growth or economic incentive. See, if they did this, they would just open a Swiss bank account.
Right, because the
They would
money
just
the money
encourage
is still going through the
that,
system.
to move your money somewhere else.
Huh.
So unless you couldn't, but I don't know how you couldn't, you know.
It seems like currency is going to go away. At least, paper money.
Eventually, I don't know if our lives will see that. They might, but it is eventually going to go away.
I don't know. I think it might be sooner than you think.
Proponents-
Within 40 years, you don't think so?
40? Yeah.
That's your life. That's our lifetime.
Proponents believe wealth that is not reinvested in the economy is harmful to economic growth. That actual liquid
I
currency
agree.
is not reinvested timely is indicative of unfair trade in which an individual has paid more for a good/service than the good/service was worth. This stems from the belief that currency should represent the actual value of a good or service. So then that makes it you can get your money, but you need to reinvest.
Yeah.
You have to put it back into the community, in which you're going to get more from, but
Right.
then you need to reinvest that. But you
Yep.
get to keep a certain fluffer amount. In which case, the fluffer amount, whatever that is, it better be pretty big, or else no one's going to go for it. You know, it's got to be like 40 million or something.
And that's like that's what a bank a savings account is, right? You're basically giving them your money. They're using your money to tell other people, "Hey, we have $100,000." When they actually don't, it's just the people that bank at the bank. It amounts to $100,000,
It's all electronic.
and so they loan it, and then they loan it at interest, and that's why you get interest on your savings balance, is because they're making money off the money that they are caretaking for you.
That's why poor people pay interest, rich people get interest.
And so if we could up that even more, that would be fucking awesome. Like every corporation has like a some kind of Nobel Prize fund, some kind of foundation where it's like the money just keeps giving, like the interest is given away each year, or something, something like that.
So, like, in this maximum wage or maximum liquid wealth program, there could be something like where that money goes is some kick-ass.
Yeah, we all work
benefit.
for Gradient, and a portion of our wages are going into this pot that we all benefit from down the line, or it's being reinvested in other things, or that might do a lot for like loyalty, like worker loyalty. If they knew that the longer they stuck with a certain corporation or company,
The more they would
the
get.
more they would get.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
interesting.
mean, Southwest did lots of stuff like that, but you still leave because it's just a terrible
Right.
thing to be. But if we all worked at Gradient Brewery /Studios, then it wouldn't be horrible. It wouldn't be horror to be there.
Wouldn't be horror.
And so people would probably work there a very long time. Probably.
I guess
would.
that's the idea behind co-ops too, right? Each employee owns a share of the company. So the better the whole company is doing, the more you receive as an employee.
That's cool. I'm down with that.
There aren't many of those.
Check
so
this
maybe
out.
it's not a good idea. You
Check
don't see
out-
many of them.
A relative earnings limit. A relative earnings limit is a limit imposed upon a business to the amount of compensation an individual is allowed as a specific multiple of a company's lowest earner, or directly relative to the number of individuals a company employs and the average compensation provided to each individual employee. Not including a certain percentage of the company's top earners. Eesh. The former implementation has the advantage of limiting wage gaps. The latter implementation has the advantage of encouraging employment opportunities, as increasing employment would be a way for employers to boost their maximum earnings. I like it. A compromise would be to base the limit upon the number of employees had by a specific company and the compensation of that company's lowest earner.
Right.
That way, if I'm CEO, I'm trying to get the bottom earner more money.
Right.
I have incentive to be like the guy scrubbing the toilets.
As long as they're on the
you
books.
need $2 more an hour.
If they're not on the books, you can charge
Well,
them.
if you can outsource internal labor, then fuck any of these rules. And that's what everyone does, and we're
Well,
going
sure,
that way too.
sure.
So regulation is like it's not even. I don't really believe in regulation, and at least it'd be something to talk about.
I think certain things should be regulated.
Right, but
Things that
of
are a
course.
threat to the public health. Aircraft,
Air defense.
passenger aircraft crashing into each other. There should be regulation. Government should be involved, and they should be regulating air traffic.
Fair enough.
Drugs probably too, even though it really
No,
sucks.
I say no. I say no drug. They don't do
Like
anything with
ATF,
drugs.
man. What a
No, fuck
what
it.
a bullshit fucking
Yeah, it's a shit show.
what a bullshit. What do they call it? Department.
Yeah.
Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms.
Well, it's like that doesn't even exist anymore.
3 fun things.
Uh huh.
3 things that are super fun.
Now they have the TTB,
Fuck it.
and they are no joke. I mean business.
Mm-hmm. The government is very good at getting their money. We need less government.
I say we need. I get you on government doing a few things. I don't think drugs is anywhere near one of them. I think people
No.
and communities know what drugs they want and need, and the people who take too many drugs, they're going to get them anyway.
Large scale infrastructure projects. That should be where the government weighs
Like
in.
roads.
Roads,
Mhm.
skyways, highways,
Yeah, I agree with that.
and maybe mass produced food. Like, let's make sure the food is good for everybody. Okay,
At least
like
some
that's
of the
that's
food.
public health, right? Like, okay,
I'd say some food.
Or like,
I'd agree with some food.
auto standards, standards of safety in automobiles. Yeah, okay, maybe.
Maybe.
But then it's like, and they take care of marriage. Right?
But no, I don't think they need to be marriaging.
Like, I need one thing from my church and one thing from the government to say I'm married.
Yeah.
The government piece of paper sort of is irrelevant to my belief systems, and
yet when I file my taxes this year, it will be as a married man, single earner.
that's right. And they give you incentives because it made sense once upon a time. Now it no longer makes as much sense as it did. But let's get back to maximum wage.
So,
What do we got?
direct earnings limit. A direct earnings limit is a limit placed directly, usually as a number in terms of currency, upon the amount of compensation any individual is allowed to earn in a given time period. A public salary limit. In 2011, Venezuela announced that from January 2012, its public officials would be subject to salary limits, with different types of official positions subject to different maximum salaries. At the highest levels, officials may receive salaries no higher than 12 times the minimum wage. State governors, for example, may receive a maximum of 9 times the minimum wage.
In Venezuela, they're completely in the shit.
There's some poop near the shins, I think, at that place.
People are, yeah.
Okay, check this out. Scaled taxation. Scaled taxation is a method of progressive taxation that raises the rate at which the principal sum is taxed, directly relative to the amount of principal. This type of taxation is normally applied to income taxes, although other types of taxation can be scaled. In this case of a maximum wage, a scaled tax would be applied so that the top earners in a society would be taxed extremely large percentages of their income. Modern income tax systems allowing salary raises to be reflected by a raise in after-tax income. Tax each individual note of currency in each particular bracket at the same rate. An example follows. So here I'm going to show our folks at home what we're talking about. So, currency bracket, if you made $1 to $40,000 dollars in bracket, you'd be charged 15%, and they would take $6,000. So after your 40, you would make 30. You would keep 34,000, and you would have capped 85%. If you would maybe between 40 and 100, say 60, they would tax you at 35%, taking 21 grand, $73,000. You would keep if you went from 34 plus 39 equals 73. So you would have kept 73% of your income. But then you go to like $100 to $175,000. They take 50%, and you end up with 63% of your money.
Right.
And then 175 to $250,000, they're charging 60% rate, and then If you're making $250,000 to $500,000 a year, they're charging 75%. And if you're making over $500,000 a year, they're charging you 90% interest.
Interest.
I mean, tax.
I think it was Roosevelt who instigated the New Deal, and he actually wanted a 100% income tax on the uppermost bracket.
That seems hardly possible.
Right. But he backed off, and it was like 90% or something.
Wow.
And revitalized America for a while there.
Well,
I don't know if it's a long-term solution, but I was surprised.
Okay.
100% income tax, like fuck, dude.
Association football. Here we go.
Oh,
In
boy.
the United Kingdom, until 1901, individual clubs had set their own wage policies. That year, the Football League ratified a maximum weekly wage for footballers of €4. 2012 was €368. 4 lira, excuse me. This severely limited the ability of the best players in the country to forego the need to take paid employment outside of football, and this in turn led to the formation of the Players Union in 1907. By the summer of 1928, players could earn a maximum of €408, although clubs routinely found ways to increase this. Player Eddie Hapgood supplemented his income by fashion modeling and advertising chocolate. That's pretty standard.
Yeah.
American football retained the
That's what I do.
maximum wage until January 1961. At which
Huh.
point it was abolished after Jimmy Hill, chairman of the Professional Football Association, threatened strike action.
Dude.
Before then, players earned
Bullshit.
a maximum of $377 a week, which was then around the average wage for a British worker. And justifying the strike action, one union representative stated that he admitted people in the mining community, he admired people in the mining community, but it didn't mean they could cope with marking Stanley Matthews on a Sunday afternoon.
Okay.
Johnny Haynes became football's first €100 a week player days after the maximum wage was abolished. And 10 years later, George Best was earning €12,000 a week.
See, I'm for that. I'm for like sportsman maximum wages.
Yeah.
Because then you go to Dodger Stadium. It's like $17 for a beer.
And it's like 10 ounces, right? Of Bud Light.
Yeah. 12. Yeah, maybe if you're lucky, it's 12 ounces of Bud Light.
Or Diet Game Day Ice
So
Light.
if you max out the player salaries, all that shit comes down. All the concessions come down because they don't have to mark it up. 17,000%.
Strike making €377 a week in equivalent money in 1961. I mean, like, holy cow.
Yeah.
That's kind of a bummer. They were like, yeah, we're playing a game. We should have way more money.
A game
It's
in
a
which
game.
we're supposed to have fun.
We're supposed to get way more money than this. I'm striking.
Yeah, the point of the game is to have fun with your blokes and
I get,
and maybe win.
I get an income. I get if you're a sports player, you should be able to live.
Sure.
But like,
Do you
like,
need $6 million over
you
a
need
6-year
5
contract?
mansions and 10 cars.
You can only live in one place at any given time.
Yeah. So it's like that's a misuse of resources. It's a waste of human and earthly resources.
It is a waste.
I think the NFL could very much stand for a maximum wage. I've actually thought,
A reboot.
what could you do with the money from the NFL, including owners, managers, players, all of them? There's a maximum wage. I'm not saying I know what that wage is, but I'm saying we could figure it out. And
What
talk
could you
about
do
it.
with it? You could
The extra money would go to services.
you
and
could
shit,
you
man.
could build a country at sea
Yeah.
and fully flesh it out with infrastructure and schools and downtown areas, and you would just need to populate it.
Mm-hmm.
You could build new cities with NFL money.
What would you? Okay, Aubrey. First pitch.
Right.
What would you say is the maximum wage for a pro star NFL player? What's the
Maximum wage per year.
per year? Yeah.
It seems like $1 million should be max. Maybe less, 500,000.
Well, they say 1.5 million.
74,000. Your happiness doesn't go up much past that. So maybe 250,000.
So say NFL players, maximum wage $250,000. That's what you're
$250,000, yeah. And you get maybe there's bennies and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah. And you get
250.
Then you can do promotions
because how many games? Who plays the most games? Is it
NFL football players or
is
baseball?
Is it
might
football?
Be baseball. I don't know. I don't watch sports.
But NFL's
No offense if you love sports, that's fine.
How many games do they play? It's not year round. They're seasonal.
Yeah, but the season gets longer every year.
Okay.
It's like Christmas is fucking earlier every year.
$1,000 a game. You're playing 300 games. You're not playing 300 games.
No, you're playing like 75 games.
75 games
a year.
So you're getting like
that's so brutal on your body, though.
10,000 per game. Right, that would be 750,000.
But you're practicing 5 days a week, and lifting weights 5 days a week, and you're not with your family, and you're traveling. I mean,
yeah.
I think I would go to be generous. I would go as far as with the first thing I read about the maximum wage, 1.5 mil
for sports. Fucking
for everything, including sports.
George Clooney,
1.5 mil.
LeBron James, both getting 1.5 mil.
And you can do 5 movies a year if you want, but you're only getting 1.5 mil
for the year.
That's it.
Right. So George Clooney's getting 1.5 mil for the year. LeBron James, 1.5 mil.
Yep.
And
would you feel bad for him? Would you feel bad for him?
And Bill Gates or something.
Yeah.
Also 1.5.
Would you feel bad for them because they weren't making more than $1.5 million a year?
No, I wouldn't feel bad for them.
I would not feel bad for them.
I'm just saying wages are based right now. They're based on what are people willing to spend, and how much money is being raked in by you. So you're George Clooney. You have a certain value. That's why you get paid the amount of money you do per movie, is because it's a guaranteed investment. They're going to make back more than they give you.
Mm-hmm.
So, the maximum wage sort of equals all that shit out. And George Clooney is just as valuable as LeBron James or the CEO of Apple. Whatever.
That means they would only make 1.5 a year. It's like, but what about the... And that's true. They would move to other countries, and they would develop them.
The brain drain.
The brain drain would occur, but I really advocate... Of course, I'm speaking globally.
George Clooney would move to India, and he'd just be like a Bollywood star.
I think if there's a way to implement this sort of universally, it could be effective. If you do it just in America, it will be crippling to America. It's like...
But then it becomes... Yeah. But, yeah.
So I don't think
just
implementing it happening in America is a good idea, but I think it is a good idea globally. That's what I think.
Globalist over here.
Well, yeah, of course I'm a globalist. I'm a human being, and I feel connected to the whole human family. And I would like to move past these arbitrary boundaries we call state lines, and
but that gives us distinctive cultures. That's why. That's the true meaning of multiculturalism, is like let cultures flourish on their own, and wow, it's cool that China's been isolated for 3,000 years. What a rich that's made them into such a rich and unique culture.
Yeah, I can't argue that. I can't argue that there's great cultures brewing, but
have
time,
brewed.
When we encounter alien life, are we gonna try to? Who talks to them? I mean, there's
right.
Probably
you or I. They'll probably be on the podcast.
Yeah, hopefully they'll come be on the podcast.
I mean,
it's like I do think that the things about our disjointedness in the future hopefully will fade away, and that we can be one human family.
Oh, in that respect, I'm with you. Yeah,
and retain our personal cultural But everyone sort of knows, maybe by forced travel, that all these cultures are different and that you'll be awkward in new cultures when you're new at that. And that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And that when you're afraid, it's okay because it's different. You're just learning.
Right.
So that we can go, okay, one human family. Let's all not go to war. Let's stop war.
In the sense that we're all on this ship together.
We're all on this ship together.
There's only one ship on the sea.
Yes.
As far as we know so far.
This is it.
We're all on it together, so we have to work together in that respect.
Let's help each other get our needs met and
but we can
work together.
But we can go to the foxhole and be like, "Oh, these guys have a weird speaking a different language up here in the foxhole." And then we go below decks and it's like, "Oh, it's a different aesthetic down here, different language." Oh, cool. Mm-hmm. We're all on the same boat. Maybe all have the same destination.
Death.
Well, yeah, but maybe the same sort of goal.
Life.
Yeah, the
progeny.
The propagation of life throughout the universe.
It's true. And we could have, I think we could work together like the phones we're using to make this are great. But if instead all of the companies and all the great minds had worked together to make the best or the top 3 best possible phones based on different situations, I think we would have a better outcome then versus this brand in the market, and then there's losers and like human ingenuity is burnt and lost that way.
Sure, but I think that's. I mean, I think competition is good because the market will constantly the most kick-ass thing will bubble to the top all the time if people are always competing, and I do think that's a good thing. But
there's competing and there's cooperation and there's cooperation.
Yeah, cooperation.
Do you know what cooperation is?
Like, well, it sounds like collusion. Like when Apple and Google are like, yeah, you can't hire any of our guys, we can't hire any of your guys. They made an agreement because they knew they had the best guys, or best people.
Yeah, let's be gender neutral.
They had the best people, and they were like, well, we're not going to be rating you for new hires, and likewise, and vice versa. That was probably a good thing.
Cooperation.
They're cooperating in competing.
I think that's an example of that. I also can think of a way of thinking about cooperation as like where we're collaborating as a team like say you had a company and they developed 3 teams and they're all supposed to compete for what the best idea is, but there was cooperation inside the groups. But it's all one thing.
Right.
So 2 groups are designed to fail, but you don't know which 2. You know what I mean? Like,
I see.
Maybe that's a way we could use competition
That'd be cool.
and still benefit. There's still waste, but it's way less waste than all the waste now from the type of competition we have. I agree. You can't end competition.
I don't think you can end competition.
You can't. But I do think there's a case for cooperation in culture.
Yeah, of course.
It's heavily needed.
Big time.
Yeah, like doctors could cooperate more, and IT companies could cooperate more, and these are my opinions. And and they can somewhat be found in the zeitgeist movement materials. I'm still a proponent of this idea. Yeah.
All right.
I'd like to have an episode at some point.
We should do another episode, Zeitgeist.
We actually bring another longtime Zeitgeister on.
That'd be cool. Maybe John Morton.
Well, I don't know. I spoke to him about this. He didn't sound too available. He's got a busy schedule. But it'd be cool to get another Zeitgeister on here and really kind of flesh out, and you can ask some questions.
That'd be fun.
That'd be fun. We've been in the fires. Well, it's almost like I think it's time for a word from our sponsor, and then maybe that last sounds good.
Yeah, we got a word from our sponsor. Let's check. I know that Final Corp recently came out with the recumbent treadmill. This saves your back. By gum, it saves your back. And
Buy gum?
And they also came out with purchasable money. You can get, I think you can get $7 for $7 for I think $10.
Oh.
Yeah, $7 for I think $10.
Okay.
So
Do they also have purchasable debt? Did they get that?
they do have purchasable debt. They have
Okay, I
purchasable
was thinking
fees,
about it. Like if you spend
customizable
like
fees.
10 grand in, you could be saddled with just about 20 grand of debt.
Right.
Pay off over time.
Right,
with
right.
payments.
If
It's
you ever
only 10 grand to get it going.
If you ever feel like you don't have enough debt, you can on demand buy debt,
Yeah, you can buy some debt.
which is pretty convenient, if I do say so. Thank you, Final Corp. Final Corp, 51 years of experience, 52 flavors of mayonnaise, and 53 layers of irony and satire in every single product. Thanks again to Final
Yeah,
Corp,
Thanks, Final Corp.
our erstwhile sponsor here on the Imagination podcast. And maybe it sounds good. This is an old one. I was looking for some old band tunes. And I found this, and I was surprised to find it.
Is this you?
This is almost 20 years old.
Holy
this song,
crapola.
and well, without further ado, I'll just play it.
Hey.
So that was it. Hope you enjoyed it. Nice. Loud crowd. I wanted to write a Cars song.
Ooh. Yeah. Oh. Ooh.
My life. Ooh, ah, oh. Ooh, ah, oh. Peanut butter. I wonder, is he really alright? I'm on look in no one's eyes.
Oh, yeah.
Don't be a stranger.
My arm's cracking. Oh.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Jim. That was a great tune.
That's you on the boss
Me and the
guitar?
boss and backing Vox.
Dude, nice one. What's that
It's an
tune
oldie.
called?
It's called Oh Brother.
Can you hear that on SoundCloud?
Yeah, it's on SoundCloud.
Oh,
Sunset
cool.
is a battle, Oh Brother.
Sunset is a battle. Oh,
It's an oldie. I was, came across it. I was like, man,
That's a cool tune.
It's a rockin' tune.
It has some heaviness to it, which I
Yeah.
enjoy. That's
super
cool.
simple. So, yeah, thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah, here I've got the final.
Okay.
Well, I've got
You got some outro?
another one of the tracks I mentioned earlier about what was going on. I have another one.
Some outro. There's outro music.
It's basically
All
outro
right.
music.
Thanks for listening.
And there you have it, folks. Thanks for listening. That was Solipsis Technical Black Core. This has been the podcast for Empathy and Imagination. I'd like to thank you for taking the time every day to listen to this wonderful podcast. Of course, thank you to Final Corp for all of your wonderful products and your wildly successful financial support for this podcast.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Drew, for hosting as always.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here, Aubrey. Thanks for making the time. Thank you, folks.
See you next time.
See you next time.